Child influencers, when did you learn your followers mattered more to your parents than you did? When I was 8, my father made me pretend to cry over a broken toy for a YouTube video that got 3.2 million views. The toy wasn't actually broken. He'd hidden it in his closet, but he needed authentic devastation for the algorithm, so he told me my grandmother had died. I sobbed into the camera for 11 minutes while he filmed from 3 different angles. Grandma was alive in Tampa. The video was titled Heartbreaking, Watch Her Reaction to Devastating News. It got sponsorship deals worth $40,000. My father took me to McDonald's afterward and said I'd done great. That's when I understood my tears had monetary value and my truth had none. That my pain was content and content was currency. The channel started when I was 5. Lily's daily adventures began as cute videos of me playing with toys, eating snacks, doing kid things that looked spontaneous but were heavily scripted. My parents would film for 8 hours to get 15 minutes of usable footage. They'd make me open the same toy box 12 times until my reaction looked surprised enough. They'd have me taste the same cookie until my delight seemed genuine. By 6, I could manufacture joy on command. By 7, I knew which facial expressions got the most engagement. My parents tracked everything. Analytics spreadsheets covering our dining room table. Watch time, click-through rates, subscriber growth, revenue per 1,000 views. I learned those terms before I learned to read chapter books. Our house in Calabasas was bought with YouTube money. 4 bedrooms, a pool, a room dedicated entirely to filming content. The walls were painted in bright colors that looked good on camera. The furniture was arranged for optimal lighting. Every toy, every piece of clothing, every snack I ate was a potential sponsorship opportunity. My parents quit their jobs when the channel hit 500,000 subscribers. My mother had been a dental hygienist. My father had sold insurance. Now they were full-time content creators, which meant full-time managers of my childhood. They called it entrepreneurship. I called it work, and they corrected me. No, sweetie, this is fun. You love making videos. Don't you love making videos? I'd nod because disagreeing meant reshooting, and reshooting meant missing dinner. The money came from multiple streams. Ad revenue from YouTube was the base, roughly $8,000 per month when I was 7. Then came sponsorships, companies paying $10,000 to $50,000 for dedicated videos where I'd play with their toys, wear their clothes, eat their snacks. My parents would negotiate rates, sign contracts, promise specific deliverables, 5 mentions of the product name, close-up shots of the logo, enthusiastic endorsements in my own words, except the words were written by my father on cue cards I'd memorize. Affiliate links in video descriptions generated passive income. Merchandise came next. T-shirts and hoodies with my face and catchphrases I'd never actually said. Lily's Daily Adventures became a brand, and I was the mascot who couldn't quit. School became impossible by 3rd grade. My parents pulled me out to homeschool, which meant I'd do workbooks between filming sessions, math problems during equipment setup, reading assignments while they edited footage. Science lessons were often just videos of experiments we'd film for content. My education became secondary to the algorithm. When I struggled with multiplication, my father said we didn't have time for tutors. When I wanted to join Girl Scouts, my mother said it would interfere with our upload schedule. We posted 3 videos per week, minimum. That meant filming 6 days a week to build a content buffer. Sundays were for planning next week's videos, storyboarding, shopping for props. I had no friends my age. I had 2.3 million subscribers. The comment section was my social life. Strangers would tell me I was adorable, funny, inspiring. They'd say they wished I was their daughter. Some comments were creepy, men saying inappropriate things about an 8-year-old. My parents would delete the worst ones but leave the borderline ones because engagement was engagement. I'd read comments on my father's laptop when he left it open, seeing grown adults discussing my appearance, my voice, my mannerisms. Some people created compilation videos of me, clips edited together with music. My parents loved this, calling it free promotion. I felt like I was being dissected by people who'd never met me but felt entitled to opinions about my existence. The breakdown happened during a sponsored video for a toy company when I was 9. They'd paid $25,000 for a dedicated video featuring their new dollhouse. I'd been filming for 3 hours, playing with the dollhouse, expressing delight I didn't feel. My father kept saying I wasn't enthusiastic enough, that I needed to sell it better. I snapped. Told him I hated the dollhouse, hated filming, hated everything. He kept the cameras rolling, captured my meltdown in 4K. I screamed that I wanted to be a normal kid. My mother tried to calm me down, not because she cared, but because we were losing filming time. My father uploaded an edited version titled Lily Has a Bad Day. It got 5.1 million views. The toy company loved it, said the authenticity made the product placement more relatable. They paid an extra $10,000 bonus. My parents took me to Disneyland the next weekend and filmed the whole trip for content. The channel expanded when I was 10. My parents started incorporating more family content, filming morning routines, bedtime routines, holiday celebrations. Nothing was private. My birthday party was a sponsored event, with a cake from a bakery that paid $5,000 for the exposure. My Christmas morning was filmed with specific presents placed strategically for camera angles. When I got my period for the first time at 11, my mother wanted to film a video about it for our female subscribers. I locked myself in the bathroom and refused to come out until she promised not to mention it on camera. She agreed reluctantly, saying we were missing an important opportunity to connect with our audience about growing up. I said some things should be private. She said privacy doesn't pay for this house. The other influencer kids I met at events were like me, exhausted children with professional smiles. We'd see each other at VidCon or brand launches, and we'd compare horror stories quietly while our parents networked. A boy named Casey told me his parents made him fake getting injured for a prank video that went viral. A girl named Zoe said her mother staged a fake kidnapping scare for views. We all knew the game. Manufacture drama, trigger emotions, optimize for engagement. Our parents had turned childhood into content, and we were too young to consent but old enough to understand we were trapped. The money kept flowing, and our parents had built lifestyles dependent on our continued performance. Stopping wasn't an option they'd consider. The sponsorship deals got bigger as my subscriber count grew. By age 12, I had 4.8 million subscribers. Brands would pay $75,000 for dedicated videos. My parents negotiated deals where I'd become a brand ambassador, requiring multiple videos over several months. I was the face of a clothing line, a snack company, a toy manufacturer. My image was everywhere, and I didn't recognize the girl in those photos. She looked happy, carefree, living her best life. I felt empty, performing happiness for algorithms, existing for strangers who thought they knew me because they'd watched me grow up on screen. My parents would show me comments where people said I was like family to them. I wanted to reply that family doesn't require ad revenue to justify its existence. The money was substantial. My father told me once, during a rare honest moment, that the channel generated roughly $850,000 annually between ads, sponsorships, and merchandise. California law required 15% go into a Coogan account for me, roughly $127,000 per year. But enforcement was loose for social media, unlike traditional entertainment. My parents were supposed to set aside that money, but when I asked about it at 13, they said it was complicated. They'd use some for business expenses, equipment, props, the house that doubled as our filming location. They promised the money was safe, that I'd have access when I turned 18. I wanted to believe them. The alternative was too painful to consider. The therapy started when a teacher from my online homeschool program expressed concerns. I'd written an essay about my daily life that read like a work schedule. The teacher contacted someone who contacted someone, and suddenly my parents were required to have me see a counselor to continue the homeschool program. They chose a therapist who specialized in child entertainers, Dr. Nina Alvarez, hoping she'd understand the industry. The first session was awkward. Dr. Alvarez asked what I did for fun. I described filming videos. She asked what I did when I wasn't filming. I couldn't answer. She asked if I had friends outside of work. I said I had subscribers. She wrote something in her notebook that made me nervous. She asked if I wanted to be doing this. I said I had to. She asked why. I said because my parents quit their jobs and bought a house and built a life around my channel. She asked what would happen if I stopped. I said I didn't know, and I started crying. The sessions continued weekly, and Dr. Alvarez slowly helped me understand that what was happening wasn't normal. She explained that children need autonomy, privacy, play without purpose. She said my childhood was being monetized in ways that weren't sustainable or healthy. She asked if I'd ever consented to being filmed. I said I was 5 when it started. How could I consent? She said exactly. She explained that many child influencers experienced exploitation similar to child actors, but with fewer legal protections because social media was newer and regulations hadn't caught up. She said I had rights, even if my parents didn't acknowledge them. She gave me resources, phone numbers for organizations that helped children in entertainment. I saved them in my phone under fake names. The confrontation happened after a video went viral when I was 14. My parents had staged a prank where they pretended to give away my dog. They'd arranged for a new family to take him, filmed my devastation as I said goodbye, then revealed it was a joke. The video got 8.7 million views and significant backlash. Comments said it was cruel, that my tears were real trauma for entertainment. News outlets covered it. Child psychologists weighed in, calling it emotional abuse. My parents were defensive, saying everyone was too sensitive, that I knew it was a prank. I didn't. They'd told me the dog was really leaving. My genuine grief was the content they'd wanted. After reading the comments for hours, I walked into the living room where my parents were celebrating the views and told them I was done. No more videos, no more filming. I was finished. My father laughed. He said I was being dramatic, that this was our livelihood, that I couldn't just quit. I said, watch me. My mother tried the gentle approach, saying I was upset and we'd talk when I calmed down. I said there was nothing to discuss. I was 14 and I'd been working since I was 5. I wanted a normal life. My father's expression changed, hardened. He said this house was paid for with YouTube money. My clothes, my food, everything I had came from the channel. I said I didn't ask for any of it. He said too bad, I benefited from it, so I owed them. The word owed hung in the air like poison. My mother said I was being selfish, that they'd sacrificed their careers for me. I said they'd sacrificed my childhood for themselves. They'd built a business on my face, my voice, my forced enthusiasm. I told them I wanted to see the Coogan account, to know how much money was actually saved for me. The fight escalated. My father said the money was none of my business until I turned 18. I said it was literally my money. earned by my labor. He said children don't have labor rights, that parents control their earnings. I said that wasn't true, that I'd researched it, that California law protected child performers. He said social media was a gray area and I should be grateful they were saving anything at all. My mother cried, saying I was destroying our family. I said they'd destroyed my childhood first. I locked myself in my room and called Dr. Alvarez. She talked me through the panic attack and gave me the number for an attorney who handled child influencer cases. His name was Malcolm Rivers, and he took cases pro bono for exploited minors. I called him that night. Malcolm's office was in Century City, in a building with security and marble floors. I took an Uber there without telling my parents, using money I'd saved from birthday cards. Malcolm was in his 50s, with graying hair and sharp eyes. He listened to my story for 90 minutes, taking notes. When I finished, he asked for documentation. I showed him screenshots of analytics my father had left open, showing channel revenue. I showed him emails about sponsorship deals. I showed him texts where my parents discussed how much money specific videos had made. Malcolm said I had a case. He explained that while social media regulations were murky, basic child labor laws still applied. My parents had a legal obligation to protect my earnings, maintain reasonable work hours, prioritize my education and well-being. They'd violated all of those. He said we could sue for an accounting of all earnings and potentially recover misappropriated funds. He said his fee was 30% of whatever we recovered. I asked what this would do to my family. He said, honestly, it would destroy it. I thought about 9 years of forced performances and said, let's begin. My parents were served 2 weeks later. The lawsuit demanded full accounting of all channel earnings, return of funds that should have been in my Coogan account, and immediate cessation of using my image for commercial purposes without my consent. My father came into my room holding the papers, shaking with rage. He said I was betraying them, that everything they'd done was for me. I said everything they'd done was to me. He said I was an ungrateful brat. I said I was a child they'd exploited for profit. He said if I pursued this lawsuit, I'd be dead to him. I said I'd been dead to him since I became more valuable as content than as a daughter. My mother tried mediating, saying we could work this out as a family. I said families don't require contracts and analytics. She started crying and said I was breaking her heart. I said she'd broken mine every time she prioritized views over my well-being. The discovery process was brutal. Malcolm subpoenaed 9 years of financial records, and my parents' lawyer fought every request. But courts take child exploitation seriously, and the judge ordered compliance. The accounting took 3 months. Malcolm hired a forensic accountant who analyzed every deposit, every expense, every transaction related to the channel. The results came back in a bound report that was 73 pages long. The channel had generated $6.2 million over 9 years. 15% of that, $930,000, should have been set aside in a Coogan account for me. The account held $43,000. My parents had taken $887,000 that was legally mine. The other 85%, $5.27 million, should have covered legitimate business expenses and reasonable family costs. The accountant found that only $1.8 million could be justified. The rest, $3.47 million, had been spent on luxury purchases, vacations, vehicles, investments in my father's cryptocurrency schemes. They'd been living like millionaires on my labor while telling me we needed to keep filming to afford our lifestyle. The deposition was scheduled for January. I'd just turned 15. My parents and I hadn't spoken in 3 months, living in the same house but completely separate. They'd stopped buying food for me, so I was living on delivery ordered with the credit card Malcolm had helped me get. They'd canceled my phone plan, so I'd gotten a cheap prepaid phone. They'd locked the Wi-Fi, so I used data. Every petty punishment they could inflict, they did, but they couldn't force me to film. I'd refused to appear in videos for 3 months, and their channel was dying. Subscriber growth had flatlined. Views were down 60%. Sponsorships had dried up when brands learned about the lawsuit. My parents tried filming content without me, but audiences wanted me. I was the brand. Without me, they had nothing. Malcolm prepared me for the deposition carefully. He explained their lawyer would try to make me look ungrateful, spoiled, manipulated by greedy attorneys. He said to stick to facts, answer only what was asked, don't elaborate. The deposition was in a conference room downtown, recorded by a court reporter. My parents sat across from me with their lawyer, a woman named Diane Keller, who specialized in defending parents in child exploitation cases. She started aggressive, asking if I loved my parents. I said that wasn't relevant. She said it spoke to my motivations. Malcolm objected. She asked if I understood how much it cost to raise a child. Malcolm objected. She asked if I appreciated the sacrifices my parents made. Malcolm objected. The judge on speakerphone sustained every objection. Finally, she asked specific questions about the channel. Had I ever asked to stop filming? Yes, multiple times. What happened when I asked? They said we couldn't afford to stop. Did I consent to being filmed? I was 5. How could I consent? Did I choose to be a YouTube star? No, my parents chose that for me. The settlement offer came 2 weeks later. My parents' lawyer proposed they'd pay me $400,000 and we'd drop the lawsuit. Malcolm said absolutely not. The forensic accounting showed they owed me $887,000 from the Coogan account alone. plus potentially $1.5 million from misappropriated general earnings. He countered with a demand for $2.3 million. Their lawyer said my parents didn't have it, that they'd spent the money, that I was asking for blood from a stone. Malcolm said that was their problem. They'd stolen from their daughter for 9 years. We went back and forth for 6 weeks. The final offer was $850,000, paid over 5 years, plus full ownership of the YouTube channel transferred to me. Malcolm said we should take it. Getting a judgment was one thing. Collecting was another. My parents were already broke, having burned through millions. If they declared bankruptcy, I'd get nothing. I agreed to the settlement. The contract was signed in March. My parents transferred ownership of Lily's Daily Adventures to me. All revenue, all control, all assets. They agreed to pay $850,000 in installments, $14,166 per month for 5 years. If they missed a payment, the full amount became immediately due and their house would be seized. They also agreed to never use my image for commercial purposes again, never discuss me in public beyond confirming I was their daughter, never profit from my childhood in any form. I agreed to drop the lawsuit and release them from further claims. We signed the papers in separate rooms. I never saw them during the signing. When it was done, Malcolm said I'd won. I felt numb. The victory was hollow because I'd lost my family in the process. I moved out the next week. Malcolm connected me with a guardian service that helped emancipated minors, and I found a studio apartment in Burbank. Small, cheap, mine. I took nothing from my parents' house except clothes and my laptop. Everything else was contaminated by the channel, by the years of forced performances. My parents didn't say goodbye. They'd already moved on emotionally, treating me like I'd betrayed them rather than acknowledging what they'd done. The first night in my apartment, I sat on the floor and cried. Not pretty crying for cameras, ugly, exhausted crying because I'd spent 9 years performing and I was finally alone. The channel sat dormant for 2 months. I owned it but didn't know what to do with it. The subscriber count had dropped to 4.1 million. People kept commenting asking where I was, if I was okay. Some had seen news about the lawsuit and supported me. Others blamed me for destroying my family. I didn't respond to any of it. Then Malcolm suggested something unexpected. He said I could use the platform to tell my story, to help other child influencers who were being exploited. He said I had a voice that could matter if I chose to use it. I thought about it for 3 weeks. Finally, I filmed a video. Just me, talking to the camera, explaining what had happened. No editing tricks, no manufactured emotions, just honesty. I titled it, The Truth About Lily's Daily Adventures. I uploaded it on a Saturday morning. The video went viral immediately. Within 24 hours, it had 12 million views. News outlets covered it. Child advocacy groups amplified it. Parents in the comments said they'd started channels with their kids and never considered the exploitation angle. Other child influencers reached out privately, saying they were living the same nightmare. The conversation shifted. Suddenly, people were questioning the ethics of family channels, of monetizing children's lives, of building businesses on kids who couldn't consent. Brands started pulling sponsorships from family channels. YouTube announced new policies about child content. Lawmakers in California proposed legislation specifically protecting child influencers, requiring Coogan accounts, limiting filming hours, mandating education standards. My one video had sparked a movement. The attention was overwhelming. Interview requests came from everywhere. Major networks, podcasts, newspapers. I declined most of them. I'd spent 9 years being public, and I craved privacy. But I agreed to testify when California held hearings about child influencer protections. I sat in a government building and told my story to lawmakers who had the power to change things. I explained how I'd been filmed 8 hours a day with no protections, how my education suffered, how my earnings were stolen, how I'd had no childhood beyond content creation. One senator cried while I spoke. Another said what happened to me should be criminal. The legislation passed 6 months later, the strongest child influencer protections in the country. They named it Lily's Law, and I attended the signing ceremony. The governor shook my hand and said I'd saved countless children from exploitation. I thought about how I couldn't save myself, but maybe I could save others. My parents sent an email on my 16th birthday, the only communication since I'd moved out. They said they were sorry for how things ended, that they'd made mistakes, that they hoped I'd forgive them someday. They said they were proud of the law I'd helped pass. They said the monthly payments were hard, but they were managing. They said they loved me. I read it 3 times, looking for genuine remorse. All I found were excuses and justifications. They were sorry things ended badly, not sorry for exploiting me. They'd made mistakes, as if systemic exploitation was an oops. They loved me, but they'd loved money more for 9 years. I drafted a response, deleted it, drafted another, deleted that too. Finally, I wrote 3 sentences. Thank you for the apology. I'm not ready for a relationship. Please continue making the payments. I hit send and blocked their email address. The channel generates modest revenue now, roughly $3,000 monthly from old videos still getting views. I haven't posted new content since the truth video. I've kept it active as a monument to what happened, proof that this was real. The comments on old videos are eerie. People from years ago saying how cute I was, how they wished their kids were like me. They didn't know I was miserable in every frame. that my joy was manufactured, that my childhood was a production. I read those comments sometimes as a reminder of how good I was at performing, how completely I fooled millions of strangers into thinking I was living a dream life. I finished high school through an actual program with real teachers, not workbooks between filming sessions. I'm applying to colleges now, thinking about studying child psychology or law. I want to help kids who are being exploited like I was. Malcolm says I'd make an excellent advocate, that I understand the systems in ways academics never will. The scholarship offers have been generous, several full rides from schools that value my story. I'm considering everything carefully, not rushing, taking time to figure out who I am beyond Lily from Lily's daily adventures. Turns out I like reading, hiking, being alone without cameras, simple things that aren't content. The payments from my parents come every month, $14,166 deposited automatically. Sometimes they're a day late, which triggers penalty interest. They've never missed one completely, knowing their house is collateral. They're paying slowly for what they took quickly, and it'll take years to make me whole. The money sits in an account I rarely touch, managed by financial advisors Malcolm connected me with. I live modestly on the passive channel revenue and work part-time at a bookstore, earning $15 hourly doing normal teenager work that doesn't involve performing. My coworkers don't know who I was. They just know me as Lily, who's good at organizing shelves and recommending books. It's the best job I've ever had. Dr. Alvarez and I still meet monthly. She's helped me understand that what I experienced was trauma, that healing takes time, that I'm allowed to be angry. Some days I'm furious at my parents for stealing my childhood. Other days I'm sad for the relationship we'll never have. Mostly I'm tired, exhausted from 9 years of performance. She says that's normal, that recovery isn't linear. We're working on helping me separate my worth from my productivity, teaching me that I have value beyond what I can generate for others. It's harder than it sounds when you spent formative years learning you mattered because you got views. I'm 17 now, and Lily's law has been in effect for 8 months. The child influencer landscape has changed dramatically. Parents are required to set aside earnings in protected accounts. Filming hours are limited based on age. Children must have access to education that meets state standards. And crucially, kids over 14 can revoke consent for their image to be used commercially. Several young influencers have already done this, walking away from channels their parents built on their faces. Their parents can't stop them. The law gives them power they never had before. I get messages from these kids thanking me, saying I made their escape possible. Those messages matter more than any view count ever did. Each one is proof that my pain had purpose, that speaking up created change, that maybe all those years of exploitation can mean something beyond the money my parents stole. That's not redemption, but it's something. It's other children getting the protection I never had, getting the childhood I never got. And some days that feels like enough. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.